Welcome everyone to this screencast. You should see all of the data points where Dax went and assessed this section of sidewalk. Right now the data points are colored so that data points with low risk or have been assessed to have low gross risk are in a light color, and ones that are assessed to have a high risk are in dark colors here. And to remind you, risk is characterized as the number of defects that segment saw multiplied by the trip count of the amount of pedestrian foot traffic that this section saw. So it gives you a sense of how many defects people experienced on average each day. So let's go ahead and look at one of these points by zooming in. Let's go ahead and click on one of these points to see what kind of defects people experienced here. The first thing that you'll notice is there's this table here that gives you a summary of all of the different things that were assessed for this section of sidewalk. But first you can scroll down and take a look at first this top-down reconstructed image of the sidewalk in question, as well as a perspective view of what the robot saw as it was assessing the sidewalk here. And the big thing that sticks out immediately is that there is this some kind of pole that's been fixed in the center of the sidewalk right here, which is likely the main reason that this segment was assessed as being such high risk. But if you're interested, we can go and take a look and see what exactly the robot did assess for this section. So the first things that you can notice is that the cross slopes and the running slopes of this sidewalk section were measured. Here it looks like the running slope is less than 1 degree pitched up, and the cross slope is pitched to the side. And if you scroll back down to the reference, you can see that in fact, while the sidewalk along the length of it seems to be relatively flat, there definitely is a tilt down towards the road here, which might be cause for some concern. In addition to that, there are all of these sections here that are labeled either with yeses or nos, indicating whether various kinds of defects were detected for this section. So for example, we can see that this section was detected to in fact have some cracking issues with it, which again, if you scroll down, you can perhaps see that there is some cracking around this utility box here, as well as down by this utility box also. Additionally, it was found to have an excess cross slope. So like I was mentioning before, this cross slope for the section is outside of specification for what the ADA allows. But you can see that there is no issues with excess lift or excess running slope. However, there is this fixed obstruction, which is what I was mentioning before. This pole here that's been mounted inside of the sidewalk reduces the navigable size of this sidewalk to less than 36 inches, which is why this was marked as a fixed obstruction. And with that, you can go on and see some of the other elements of the data that are collected right here. We can see that there's some various identifiers that this point can be uniquely identified. Additionally, we also see here that the total number of defect points, so this is kind of the total score that this segment gets, is a 9. But there weren't any vertical obstructions or any vegetative obstructions that were seen for the sidewalk. And again, if you look at the image, you can see that apart from the pole and some cracking issues, there doesn't seem to be any of the other kinds of obstructions that you might see in other places. Now, after looking at the details of one of these points, you might be interested in saying, well, where else are there these fixed obstructions around the lake? So if we close this window out and come over here to the side and click on filters, we can just add a expression here to look for all instances of fixed obstructions. So we can click on that, and all of the locations where fixed obstruction is not no. So we're looking for all the data points that have this fixed obstruction. And if you scroll out, you can see that now we have subsetted the data, and you can see that all of the fixed obstructions seem to be here on Glendale Boulevard, and that none of the rest of the park seems to be experiencing that defect. Now, if instead you wanted to look at some other kind of defect that you could look for example, you want to see where are there cracks in our sidewalks, you can instead pick that filter and see that there is a large amount of cracking over here on Echo Park Avenue, and there are sections of cracking around the circumference of the park. Hopefully this has been a good introduction for you, and hope you enjoyed getting to dig into this data.